So for me, what I've come to understand is that some things people will detach themselves from and observe and critically analyze and be able to work with and develop with and through. Whereas other people are possessed by their categories of thought, possessed by their stereotypes, possessed by what their values are in the moment. And there's no detachment, there's no real growth there, there's only blind expression, just pure will to life. And there's no real growth there, and there's no real fighting against that. I've come to understand that in order to sublimate something in an effectively productive manner, it needs to not just be transformed into another form. It needs to be stepped back, and we need to step back from it and say, okay, I'm going to develop this. Weightlifting is a really good example. Or our health care. There are all these different aspects of my health care. There's diet, there's exercise, there's meditation, there's social interaction. There's all these different facets of my health care. There's seeing doctors on a regular basis. There's all these different facets, and all these different facets, even though they're all come under that one category of healthcare, they also interact with each other. So my diet interacts with my physical therapy. I need the right kind of diet so that I have the energy and the calories and whatnot to do the exercise, and then I need the right kind of calories to develop the body so that the body has the nutrients that it needs. And I need to see the medical professionals to make sure that I am, or the exercise professionals. For me, because it's physical therapy and I have to be careful with my back, it's medical professionals that need to inform me that I'm doing the right exercises. So it has to do with relativity and relationship. Everything even though it all comes under one, it's all these different aspects develop the one. And this goes back to that creation myth I shared with my friend I'm talking about, this elder that has all this judicial experience, where all was one in a source, and then the source, being that it couldn't develop, needed to split itself off. And in splitting itself off, created space and time. And in space-time, its unity was separated and differentiated and individualized so that it could interact with each other and start developing. And in that development, it was actually, because it all came from one unity, only self-development. It's all aspects of itself. And it's the contrary antipathies, the dualities, the duadities, as I call them, the duads of up and down, right and wrong, superior and inferior, evildoer, righteous man, good and bad, all that stuff. But ultimately, they're all one. And they affirm each other. The value of the good is born out of the bad. And the value of the bad is born out of the good. So they're self-affirming. They affirm each other because they are one. And without the opposites, there would be a unity and no interrelationships. And so a great deal of study, sciences and production of goods and all this stuff seems very ephemeral to me. At times it seems devoid of value. If we are not fully conscious of the fact that we are bringing the value to it. And it is important that we bring the value, and what kind of values are we, what kind of evaluations are we making and bringing to the object. So, but at the same time, in my experience, I've realized that there's this blind will to life that's just this pure force of differentiation and separation and recreation and reproduction, the reinventing the mousetrap kind of thing. That it's ridiculous to fight against it. It's important for me, in my experience, I've realized that going against it misses the point entirely. Going against this blind will to life is a type of refusal of life and a life negating posture and stance to take in relationship to this blind will to life. Joyful participation in the world of sorrows is how I've heard it stated in Joseph Campbell. And he was referring to the Buddhist psychological interpretation of the bodhisattva. The bodhisattva is the one that has left the phenomenal realm and entered into the transcendental realm, where all is one and unified. And looking back onto the phenomenal realm, which doesn't have any inherent existence in it in itself, because we bring its existence, we bring its purpose and meaning. So it doesn't, in and of itself, it doesn't have any meaning unless we bring it to it. The bodhisattva then decides to return back to the phenomenal realm and joyfully participate in the sufferings that go along with time and space and quote-unquote reality. But we get these hardening of categories, these categories of thought, these ontologies. And that's what I'm working with, and that's what can change, and that's what can grow and develop, is that we can expand our terms and conditions with life. Our stance and posture does change in relationship to life. Throughout our lives, it grows and develops. But if we can step back and actually observe that we can change our categories of thought, we can change our evaluations of things. Well, this is a whole process. And I think it was it summed up through the view of Joseph Campbell's stance and posture in The Hero's Journey, the monomyth of James Joyce, the heroic endeavor, where a trauma happens, they have to leave the world, they meet some deeper meaning, and then they bring that deeper meaning back to the world. But if we have been conditioned to think that there is evil, bad, and wrong that must be condemned to hell forever and eternity, then certain aspects that enable our growth, out of our darkest night arises our brightest light. Those dark elements do not allow us to grow because we've exiled them into hell, and we can't grow and develop. And I realize that some people are fixed and set fast in their stance and posture in relationship to the bad and the wrong, and their categories of thought become fixed and set fast, concretized.